Spring break. We know that in some parts, for example, in Ontario, March break has now become April break. This is one thing that students are missing out on. And there's another thing that we're going to talk about next, and that is field trips. Field trips out of the class. But across the country, there is a growing movement to explore the outside world online. Virtual field trips. And Deanna Sumanak-Johnson is with us this morning. She's been looking into this story. It's a fantastic story. What's available to kids, these virtual excursions, Deanna?
Good morning, Heather. Well, what our team found out is what's not available, that all of these institutions, arts institutions, zoos, the Canadian Parliament have gone out of their way to present a really compelling virtual experience for the students. And as you said, not only are virtual, our real field trips, of course, canceled, it has been a year of so many restrictions for the kids, very little adventure, a lot of new rules to be followed when they are in class. And of course, there's been a lot of time outside of class, learning at home. So this is where these institutions really step in to fill the gap. So what they do is they have live presenters. They make these presentations interactive so that the kids can actually ask questions and be acknowledged, which of course is so great. Some of them use kind of a 360 camera technology. I think we just saw some of the visuals from the Canadian Parliament that's really quite engaging and makes students feel just like they're right there in the seat of power. So this is really trying to not replace, not emulate, but perhaps offer a worthy substitute for what would be one of the most exciting parts of student life. We spoke to a Thunder Bay teacher that has been using quite a few of these virtual field trips about why they're so important to classroom discussions. And she's specifically talking about the Art Gallery of Ontario virtual field trip. Here is what she had to say.
A lot of the artists that we have been able to sit in on were Indigenous artists, and they were, my school was looking at lots of things with treaties and things at that time when we first started them. So it just felt like everything clicked and pieced together, and the kids were making connections from what they were doing in our language class all the way into the arts classes. And then we started just making all kinds of different connections of things that they were doing.
And she said, by the way, that, having a trip to Toronto, which is something like 16 hours by bus or car, is not something that they would typically do anyway. So this trip actually offered them something a little more exciting than perhaps even their normal school year, pre-COVID school year.
Pre-COVID, exactly. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a win-win, though, as I understand it, Deanna. It's not just the schools and the students who benefit.
It really is. And I think especially for some institutions that struggle a little bit with attracting younger audiences. So if we're talking about the opera, the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra we spoke to, they are always trying to reach out to schools to build that habit in young people of enjoying the arts, of benefiting from the arts. So for example, with the Art Gallery of Ontario, they make this really, as I said, like really engaging for the young people. And this month, they're actually one of the themes they're exploring. Of course, it is Black History Month, so they're focusing on contributions of Black artists. And one of the things they did, just to give you an idea of how cool and engaging this is they had IMF, who is a spoken word artist. She performed with her DJ partner, Rafiki, and they basically kind of made songs inspired by the works of Black artists that are housed within the AGO. And she said that this was a really great experience for her as well. Needless to say, musicians are also not performing live a lot these days. Here's what she hoped her performance and her lecture would inspire in kids.
For me growing up, I loved, those presenters would come to the school and there'd be an assembly and they'd sing or they'd do spoken word. And I'm like, whoa, I want to do that. At a very young age, I knew I wanted to perform, I wanted to sing. And I was like, yeah, I got to do this. And so I hope there's someone out there today watching and saying, I've always wanted to sing. I don't know if I can do it, but then they're like, you know what, I can do it.
And I think that this might be maybe the only part of the COVID-style education that will survive past the pandemic, that I think a lot of the teachers and institutions we spoke to said, definitely we would do this again, regardless of what the next school year looks like.
A lasting change. Mm-hmm. So many changes brought about by this pandemic. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, thank you. Good to see you on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me,
Heather. Really
Heather.
appreciate it.